So you guys had a little bit of time to work with each other and in your groups to kind of talk about some of the units. And some of the units you guys said, or measurements that you guys mentioned, were inches, meters, centimeters. Zachary had mentioned cubic measurements. So let's look at some of these. We can measure in all sorts of units, correct? And what we need to remember about volume, as we mentioned before, we're measuring. So let's get our ruler, and when we look at our different sides that we can measure, correct? We have what we call length, what we call our height, and then what we might call our width or our depth, right? So we have 3 units that we do measure, and you guys have your rulers in your grid paper as well. There are a couple of you that I didn't get your grid paper to, so let's go ahead and make sure you get that. You guys over here. Yeah. So what I'm going to have you guys work on now is some of the different shapes that you have on your worksheet. I'd like for you to go ahead and start to calculate how many square units that is. We're going to draw those shapes on there, and then we're going to be able to calculate our volume. As you're doing volume, I want you to also remember our measurements that we learned before last class. We started to talk a little bit about area. Remember, area was length times width. And now we have space inside. So we're not just measuring the outside dimensions anymore. When we look at our volume, we go to measure what's called width, right? So now we're measuring the space that's also inside of the container. So if we're going to look at volume as a measurement of length times width times height, right? So we're going to have 3 sides or 3 dimensions that we measure. So now let's start to talk about our units. You guys gave me some great examples of measurements. Aiden, what would we call if we had inches for our measurement for our cube? What unit would we want to use? Inches what? Remember cube, right, exactly. So remember when we did area last class, all of you are really quick to measure areas as length times width, right? Okay. So now we got a unit, say we were using meters. You guys were really good to be and know that we had 2 sides we measured, so all the unit for areas would be a square unit. Volume is no different. Now that we have the 3rd piece that we measure, we're going to have units that measure in meters cubed, inches cubed, centimeters cubed. So what Zachary said was exactly correct, where we use cubic measurements. So he was much more general when he explained that. As you guys start to go through the rest of the worksheet and doing the measurements for each of the shapes that I gave you guys on your grid paper, I'm going to kind of pop around and check out some of your work as you're going along as well. And then in about 15 minutes, I'm going to break you guys into groups. Break up your groups and send you guys around and kind of investigate what some of the other groups are working on. Okay? Great. Zachary?